Hello everyone, Tebrith here, and welcome to week 28 of my journey to learning TF2, where, for the past week, I've been exploring Scout's unlocks, and before we move on to the rest of the video, I feel I must say that Scout's various weapons were a lot more difficult for me to find any loadouts that I was happy with. Reason being is that I'm not the type of gamer who likes fast-paced games. I like to think my way through things, figure them out like a puzzle, and use tactics to solve my problems. Scout, as a class, is very much just a go fast and react as quickly as possible kind of guy. So, with that in mind, it took me a good long while to find the loadouts I'm actually happy with. And a consequence of that being most of the footage you'll be seeing will be from the experimental days. Though I will try to keep the footage of the formative loadouts related to the final result of whatever I just happened to be talking about at the time. And with all that said, let's move on to the actual loadouts, shall we? First up, we have what I like to call the Dilettante Hunter, consisting of the default scattergun, the flying guillotine, and the fan of war. The main strategy behind this loadout is to mainly act as a roamer, defend the flanks for your team, and occasionally harass the enemy backline if the coast is clear. The idea is to lean into the guerrilla tactics of the Scout, using the flying guillotine to start an engagement, dealing significant damage to the enemy and cause them to bleed on your approach, before you even start firing your weapon. Just a quick go in, deal a lot of damage, and get out. You are not meant to hold ground with this loadout. Also, due to Scout's impeccable ability to choose his fights, should you start an engagement just to realize that it's not a fight you're confident in, the Fan of War is an amazing tool to salvage some usefulness from bad situations. Just bop an enemy upside the head with it during your escape, and that's 15 seconds of marked for death that they'll have to deal with, making them much less of a threat to your team for the time being. Meaning, even though you failed to eliminate the threat entirely, at least you did something on your way out. And the reason I chose the default scattergun for this loadout over any of the other primaries is because in this loadout, it's practically your only way to fight back. I've been playing this game for almost a year at this point, and in that time, I've learned that the unlockables are only better than stock if you've got a purpose for them. A particular role in that overall strategy that needs to be fulfilled. Failing that, if there's no particular role and instead you just need something that's consistent, reliable, and versatile, ready for most situations you'll find yourself in, the answer is always going to be the same.
I'll take stock!
Up next is the Public Enemy. Named after the weapon set of the same name, this loadout leans in the opposite direction of the Dilettante Hunter. Where that one was all about guerrilla warfare, this one is more about holding ground and tactically engaging the enemy head-on. Pretty much the only similarity the two loadouts have is that they both have a bleed effect as the initial engagement starter, where in this case you throw a glass bulb at the enemy before using the babyface's blaster to fight head-on, using the pistol to finish off stragglers. Big thanks to Lucky for telling me about the passive damage combo for the Rap Assassin and the Babyface's Blaster. Because of them, this loadout was actually the first one of the finalized loadouts to appear. Anyway, the reason I chose the Babyface over the Scattergun was primarily because having a constantly shifting movement speed really messes with my opponent's muscle memory. After all, Scout is already the hardest to hit class in the game. Combine that with a Scout whose speed is inconsistent, and suddenly your crosshair starts doubting your motivation. That being said, choosing the Pretty Boy's pocket pistol over the stock pistol really came down to the finisher capability. The Pretty Boy shoots faster and heals you, making it more suited to finishing fights when compared to the stock pistol, which is more used for fighting enemies that are just out of range of your primary with its larger clip size. Moving on, we have the final loadout I'm going to show you today, which I like to call the Recon Sharpshooter, consisting of the Shortstop, Criticola, and the Atomizer, The main strategy behind this loadout is to use the atomizer for mobility purposes, find a vantage point to oversee the fighting, pick a fight to start, take a quick sip before engagement, then use the boosted shortstop at mid-range to mow down an enemy or two, back off, then repeat. This loadout heavily leans into Scout's ability to pick his fights, more than any of the others. Best used to pick off the bulkiest combat classes like Heavy or Demo Man. Effectively, this loadout is meant to get rid of the anchors on the enemy team, not to engage in the front lines directly or even to roam the flanks. Instead, it's meant to hang back, assess the situation, then head out to remove whatever the largest threat to the team currently is. Also, I find the shove is really fun to use on scoped in snipers, especially if they're near a ledge taking pot shots. And that's about it. Scout's an interesting class that is the polar opposite to how I typically like to play my games. However, I'm also really pleased that I found ways to play him that are actually fun, even if they're a bit different than how most people play him. Next week is gonna be about man versus machine, and if anyone's got any advice on how to play a Scout in that game mode, please comment down below. And with that, I hope you all have a wonderful remainder of your day.